Hey there students, this is Chelsea with Let's Talk. Today let's break down question tags. Question tags are like a little question that we add at the end of a statement. We use them to ask a question or kind of to ask for confirmation of something we already think is true. So they're pretty easy to form. You start with your statement. And then we need the auxiliary verb. We've got past simple tense, so the auxiliary verb is did. So we do the auxiliary verb, then we make it negative. Always use contractions in question tags, not did not I, but didn't. And end it with that same subject. So, I measured it right, didn't I? This is me asking a question. I want to know the answer. I measured it right, didn't I? I want you to tell me, yes, you measured it right, or no, you didn't measure it right. But we can also do this to ask for confirmation of what we think we already know. All right, I ruined the recipe. We'll have the same question tag here because it's past simple and I is the subject. So same question tags, but listen carefully. I measured it right, didn't I? I ruined the recipe, didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? When we're asking a question, we actually want to know the answer. We're going to go up in tone at the end, like we're asking a closed question. Didn't I? Didn't I? When we think we're right and we want confirmation, we go down because it's a statement. We're saying, yep, this is true. Didn't I? Didn't I? I measured it right, didn't I? I ruined the recipe, didn't I? So this rising or falling inflection will give your listener a little clue to how you actually feel. They'll know if you're honestly asking a question or if you're just asking for confirmation. If our original statement is negative, like you don't like it. So our auxiliary verb is already here, do. And this is negative. We want the opposite. So our question tag will be positive. You don't like it, do you? So same subject and the same auxiliary verb, but it's the opposite. If you have an affirmative statement, your question tag is negative. If you have a negative statement, your question tag does not have a negative form in it. In a sentence where we already have an auxiliary verb, like he can bake cakes. We already have an auxiliary verb here, can. So we'll just use that here. But the first one, we had to think of the auxiliary verb. Here, we've already got it. Auxiliary verb, make it the opposite. So here, negative. And add the subject. He can bake cakes, can't he? All right, we do have one exception to this auxiliary verb rule, but only in one situation. When we have an affirmative statement in present simple tense, where the subject is I and our verb is to be. So super specific. So we have an affirmative statement, I is the subject. We have am as the main verb. We're in present simple tense. Normally, we would take or to be and we'd put it at the end. But in this one case, we won't use am. We use are. Aren't I? I'm a terrible cook, aren't I? And this is probably because am and not can't be contracted. We can't say amn't. So it sounds strange. Am not I? It sounds weird, and we want it to sound like the rest. So we use aren't. I am a terrible cook, aren't I? This will work for continuous tenses as well, where, for present continuous tense, where the auxiliary verb is also to be. I'm mixing it right. Present continuous, am mixing. Our auxiliary verb there is the present form of to be for I. So I'm mixing it right, aren't I? But this is the only exception. Everything else will follow the auxiliary verb, opposite subject rule. Okay, so we also can use our auxiliary verbs to agree with someone. So when you want to agree with a positive sentence, someone says, I should stop eating. I'm too full, I should stop eating. I want to agree with them in a short way. We'll use the word so, then the auxiliary verb, then the subject. Well, I'm talking about myself. So should I. I should stop eating. Oh, so should I. I should also stop eating. Someone says, my mom loves grilled steak. Start with so. We've got present simple tense, so I'll use do and me. So do I. So this can be all kinds of auxiliary verbs. So have I, so did I, so will I. But starting with so, and if it's us we're talking about, we'll use I as the subject. Now, if we're agreeing with a negative statement, we don't use the word so. Someone says, I will never eat beef. This is a negative statement. I will never eat beef. We don't use so, we use neither. Then our auxiliary verb and our subject. I'll never eat beef, neither will I. Not so will I, neither will I. Tom had never been there. Maybe that's the same case as not me, but someone else. Neither, our helping verb. Neither had Sally. Sally also had never been there. So this is one really common mistake I hear from English language learners. If someone says, I'll never eat beef, they say, so will I. Tom had never been there. Oh, so had I. You don't use so when you're agreeing with a negative statement. We use neither. You can pronounce it neither if you want. Okay, we're finished, aren't we? This is Chelsea telling you it's not nerdy being wordy. Let's talk again soon.